An argument as old as time. Thin crust versus pan pizza. A house divided. Until now, thick, hearty portions of this flavorful, crusty pan pizza can convert even the most die-hard fans of thin crust pizza. Pan pizza lives or dies by its crust, so it's gotta be a special one. Start by adding 4 cups of all-purpose flour to a stand mixer, along with 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1½ teaspoons of salt, 1½ teaspoons of yeast, and 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Feel free to swap in a flavored olive oil if you desire. Mixing together these ingredients can be done by hand, but a stand mixer, while an expensive investment, is a significantly easier, faster, and arguably more consistent method of mixing and developing the gluten. Anyway, turn the mixer to low and allow all the ingredients to come together. Next, take 1½ cups of room temperature water and slowly add it to the flour. Take your time and slowly add in the water. Sometimes you don't need to use all the water, especially on warm, humid days. Adding too much water can make the dough slack and difficult to handle. The most important part of this step is to ensure no dry flour remains without making the dough too wet. If the dough is looking too dry during the first few minutes of the knead, consider adding tiny amounts of water at a time to ensure all the dry flour gets picked up. Now that all the dry flour has been incorporated, turn up the mixer to medium-low. Knead for 7 minutes until the dough is smooth and elastic. After 7 minutes, you should end up with a nice, stretchy dough ready to make its way to a sheet pan. You're going to want a heavy-duty sheet pan to help transfer that good heat to the dough while it bakes. I just picked up a cast iron sheet pan during a recent trip, so be on the lookout for a future video where we try the same recipe again with some lessons learned. Now drizzle 1/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil onto the sheet pan and give it a little tilt to help spread the oil around a bit. Dip your spatula in a little olive oil to prevent sticking and transfer the dough onto the sheet pan. Flip the dough over so both sides are coated with olive oil. Cover the sheet pan with plastic wrap. We want to let the dough rest at room temperature for 1 to 1½ hours until it is roughly doubled in size. Temperature plays a large role in proofing times. A colder room temperature requires a longer proof, whereas a warmer room will yield a shorter proof. Spin about an hour or so and the dough has puffed up nicely. Carefully remove the plastic wrap while trying to keep it intact because you'll use it again for a later step. Grab the dough and tug at the edges to stretch it towards the edge of the pan. If the dough springs back a little, it's fine. Recover the dough and let it rest for about 45 minutes. You want it to double in size and puff up. After 45 minutes, the dough is puffed up, and so now you can add the toppings. Start with pizza sauce. I'm using sauce that I previously made for our thin crust pizza video, so if you'd like to learn how, please check it out. Now onto the cheese. There's a lot of flexibility to be had here in your preferred cheese selection. I'm using freshly grated mozzarella and topping half the pizza with pepperoni, since I live in a house divided on cheese versus pepperoni. Once you're satisfied with your toppings, place the pizza in a 500-degree oven for about 15 minutes, or until the crust is golden brown and the cheese is melted. I preheated my oven for an hour at 500 degrees to ensure the pizza steel got properly heat soaked before placing the sheet pan onto it. You can do this bake using a cheaper pizza stone, but I found that a pizza steel does a better job than anything else I've tried. Once the pizza is nice and golden, remove it from the oven. At this point, I'm going to channel my former life as a CAD designer and cut the pizza into beautiful grid squares. The crust has turned out just perfect. It's unfortunate that flavors don't transfer through video because the thick crust has the most amazing flavor, similar in texture and taste to a delicious breadstick. It's crispy on the bottom and has soaked up that delicious olive oil. The middle is soft and fluffy. You really can't beat it. You can feed a lot of hungry mouths with this recipe, and I encourage all of you watching to give this one a shot. As always, if you have any questions during your bake, feel free to reach out in the comments section for any tips, tricks, or advice. Until next time.